Happy Wednesday, everyone. It's hump day. But hump day is almost over, right? Last week, we talked about worthiness. And I want to just kind of recap a little bit about worthiness, the feelings of I'm not enough. The reason it's important to address these topics is because when we are in discussion about any type of development, career development, especially, there's going to be some type of personal development in that. If we're talking about going to the next level, in order to actualize the vision that you have for your life, then we need to talk about some personal development things. Let me just remind you that you have everything you need to actualize the vision in your life. But sometimes there's some gremlins that gets in the way. I call them gremlins. But tonight we're going to introduce a topic: how to silence your inner critic. Your inner critic is what I call your gremlins, but is what my guest speaker called Vanessa. And we'll talk about that in a bit. So let me share with you a little bit about my guest speaker. Her name is Kelah Raymond-Garner. And she's an HR business leader and also a career strategist. And tonight she's going to take us through the 4 stages of silencing your inner critic. So I'm going to bring her on. Give me just a minute. Hey, Kelah!
Hey, Lynn!
So, Kelah, before I get started or let you get started in talking to us, I just want the audience to just put in #live or tell me where you are watching from. And if you're catching the replay, put in #replay. So, Kelah,
Yes.
you are here tonight to educate us and really kind of help us get to that next level.
Yes, but as I educate everyone else, I continually educate myself too, because the thing we know about our inner critic, aka Vanessa, is that she never goes away.
She really does not. So tell me, before we get into that, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and then how did you come to this topic of silencing the inner critic?
Sure. So a little bit about me. You kind of said it in a nutshell. I am a career strategist. I help powerhouse professional women stand out, get noticed, so that they can get promoted. Now, to clarify, right, where I'm different from you are a career transition, right, expert.
Yes.
My expertise is all around when the woman is currently in the organization and trying to do the corporate climb, right? That's who I coach.
So leaders, in leaders that's up and coming leaders.
Yes, right. Either emerging, aspirational leaders, right?
Emerging, yeah.
Climb the corporate ladder, but my sweet spot is when she has been passed over a time or two. I like to uncover the reasons as to why, and then help her to get there. So that's what I do. I call them powerhouse professionals because they're go-to experts. They're awesome at what they do. They just need to emerge from the shadows, right? Stop hiding, be visible, let everyone else know that they're as great as they are and as their leader know that they are. So that is who I help. And awesome. So silencing the inner critic, how did that come about? So I am always in conversations like with you, right? We're business besties, and I have my very best friend as well. And while you're on that so it sometimes feels like a treadmill of growth and stretching.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have those other ladies that's willing to exercise and stretch and grow right there along with you. And so I'm always in conversations, with women who are stretching, right, and growing themselves. And so within one of those conversations, we were just having that soul-searching, heart-to-heart type of conversation. And of course, my very best friend, Gina, who's also in HR, go figure. But my very best friend, she affectionately named her Vanessa. She's like, yes, I always have to tell Vanessa to shut up. And I'm right there behind her telling Vanessa to shut up, telling, yeah, girl, tell Vanessa to shut up. right? Because that is not who you are. You are X, right? Whatever follows there, depending on our topic. So that's really how the topic came up. And through that, I was like, oh my God, how many other women are just struggling, thinking that they're alone or their inner critic is winning in this season. And they haven't, properly silenced her and put her in her place. So that's just kind of really where that whole let's silence the inner critic was birthed.
Awesome. It was about 2015. The first time I heard the term saboteur was in 2015 in a live coaching training. And my attention went because the way she was describing what a saboteur was, I was like, oh, that's me. I've had that experience. Like, surely she's talking about me. And so when you start talking about silencing the inner critic, I felt just like you that this message definitely needs to get out, because I don't think people are really aware of how much this stops us from moving forward in confidence. Right. And let me just take some time to say hello to my viewers. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. So somebody said that she named hers. Mine is Negative Nancy. Yes.
Yes.
And it's Negative Nancy. Let me tell you, Negative Nancy and Vanessa, they are both disrespectful. I'm just here to tell you right now. They are disrespectful, and you got to put them in their places.
Yes.
So Kelah, take us through when you discovered your Vanessa, when you discovered it, like what were you doing that made you think about this, that made you and your bestie start having this conversation?
So, my Vanessa always rears her ugly head in my entrepreneurial journey, right? Not in my career, not in my 9 to 5. If I'm glowing and growing, working someone else's dream. I mean, I'm just a badass, right? If I can say that, right? I am. To my 9 to 5. But when I start thinking, growing, strategizing, entrepreneurially, oh my gosh, she can never shut up. So that is where she always comes out, and it's well, who's gonna listen? And can you do that? Well, if you tell the truth, you still struggle with that a little bit too. You're not perfect, right? You're not either. So that is definitely where Vanessa shows up for me, and that's on the professional side. I'm always very authentic and very, very vulnerable with my life's journey. Personally, where she shows up is in my marriage. I am a product of a single mom. Dad was present, but lots of dysfunction and issues and things like that. And I never saw a good or great model marriage modeled before me. So when I got married, there was there's that inner critic, like, can you do this? Are you sure you can do this? Will it last? It won't last. You're gonna get sick and you're gonna say, I don't have to deal with this, and you're gonna bounce.
Yeah. You know what? This is getting juicy. So it doesn't just show up when we are, being boss babes, right? Like pushing and doing our thing. It shows up in relationships. I think that is interesting.
Wholeheartedly. She shows up really everywhere, spiritually, right?
She
shows up financially, like just in every facet of your life. She is there, and she will show up, right? She shows up, in how you see yourself, your body image or your physical image of yourself, right? When you're being critical on yourself, like even me, right? I'm a fairly petite woman, but when it's time for a photo shoot to come up, I'm like, let me go detox. Let me lose another 5 or 10 pounds so I can, look this way, that way, right? She's always there saying, like, you're not enough. You can be better. You can do this. So she is just always there. And, before we get into the phases, because there's 4 phases to silencing Vanessa. And the phases are, I'll just quickly share the phases. It's perfection, procrastination, and then there's planning, Did I miss it? And progression. Yes. Okay. 4 P's. So that's perfection, procrastination, planning, and progression. So those are the 4 P's we'll walk through, or the phases we'll walk through as we, unpack Vanessa and how she rears her ugly little head, or her sassy head, or her critical head. But before we do that, I really wanted to expound a little bit about, like, what is the inner critic, right? And why is Vanessa there to begin with, right? So like, you had a question though, before we get into what she is and why she's there.
I want you to just go right into that, because there's a point. Well, let me ask my question. Does vulnerability, because, okay, before I even go there, this is just too juicy. Someone said, we are so afraid, Mary Beth, I believe, we are so afraid to be too strong. We are afraid if we get noticed, then we will be in the spotlight and will be watched. Oh, come on in here, somebody. It's in our head. We think people watch us more than what they really do. Now, who just preached? Who just said
Mary Beth did? That's her name. Absolutely.
And this is what I was going to say to that before I saw that, because right before that I saw that, what came to mind prior to going live was vulnerability. We have, I think part of it, the critic, making it stronger, is when we are afraid to be vulnerable, to be exposed, to be, to put ourselves out there. And because part of that is addressing some areas that, yes, we may need to address to improve upon to get better. But I'm not going to get ahead of you. Let's continue on this.
I mean, we can camp out there for a little bit, because that is so true, right? And truly, the idea of strength, right? We think that it's to hide and appear perfect, but strength really comes from a place of vulnerability.
Yes.
Right? And having the strength to speak to your struggle, to speak through your struggle, and to speak up for your struggle.
Come on and say that again, sister. Hold on. We can't go that fast. Listen, you went through that too fast. Say that one more again for the people.
So I done said that
you
before.
Said
sometimes I just be talking and going, and if you don't write it down, you lose it.
I'm so glad this is being recorded.
Vulnerability is about your strength, right? And it's the strength through your struggle, right? To speak to your struggle, to show up in the struggle, right? And just not hide, right? But really stand up in it too. And even think about that. Even myself, you have a group of ladies that you're nurturing, that you're helping, that you're inspiring. I have a group of ladies that I'm doing the same for. And as you lead, whether it's your family, you're leading people at work, or you are just a leader by influence because people are drawn to you and you help them in some facet, in some way in life, no one's going to connect to you if you're always on the mountaintop. And if you always picture perfect, because none of us are. We are not picture perfect, right? But it's when I can be vulnerable and honest about my struggle and my valley and say that I struggled right here, that people can relate and people can identify, right? But if you're leading, then you're going to say, okay, well, then here's how I came out of that struggle, right? And that's the part of leading them, of leading through it. So no, vulnerability, I love that. The fact that we think we're too strong, right? And that somehow if we show vulnerability, that people wouldn't respect us, right? And that is actually the opposite, right? My team at work follows me harder and faster and more quickly when I go, guys, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. There's a lot that I do know, but this right here, I don't know. We're going to fly by the seat of our pants. I'm going to need your input, and we're going to figure this thing out together. And then we're going to write it down and document it for other people that come behind us, right? But let's figure it out together. So I'll pause there because I know you got something to add.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. So I think a lot of times it's important to assess. Well, for me, when I was going through understanding what a saboteur was and silencing that inner critic, right? And still today, I'm silencing the inner critic because you snatched me together as business besties. I find that it stems from somewhere, right? It stems from somewhere. And for me, I love how you talk about just we think that we need to be at the mountaintop for people to follow us. And immediately I started thinking how when I used to be really strong in the church, like, evangelist this and evangelist that. And now I'm like, do not call me that. I evangelized through my life. But what I've learned that in the church, it's easy to get that mindset that you always have to be at the mountaintop, that you always have to be this perfect person, like you always have to be strong, when in actuality, that's not real. Right. And it impacts you as an individual. And if you want to be, if you want to influence people and allow and be in and want people to be inspired by what you have inside of you, the purpose that God has put in you, then you're going to have to be open yourself up to being vulnerable at times.
So I so wholeheartedly agree with you, but I'll pull that onion back one more layer, right? If you want to influence yourself, and if you want to be proud of, of yourself, like having this picture of perfect is unattainable and it's so unrealistic. And just imagine what it does to your mental state, your physical state, right? And even your momentum and your ability to move, right? It really immobilizes you when you think you have to be on the mountaintop, or everything has to be perfect, or everything has to be, in this picturesque, formula, because of course, love stories and Hollywood paints these pictures and these movies, right? Which is good for making money in movies, but not so good for our own individual lives, right? So even aside from the people, right, if you can lead yourself through that, right? And that's what we're talking about, silencing the inner critic, right? Through that idea and that mountaintop, this idea of perfection, right? You will go so far. There will always be a next level in career, right, entrepreneurship, right? Whatever your calling or whatever that thing is tugging and pulling on you is, you'll always be able to get there and go there because you know how to avoid or circumvent, right, these phases and this inner critic.
Yes. So let's get to that for those 4 phases. Why don't you share with us what they are?
Sure. So again, the first phase is perfection. The second is procrastination. The third is planning. And the fourth is progression, right? And let me just talk a little bit, and I'll try to do this really, really fast, but a little bit about the inner critic, right? So by definition, Vanessa, the inner critic is that critical inner voice that judges or demeans you. Now, understand by definition, the inner critic is someone that is judging, right? And demeaning, right? And so really the inner critic, if we go into psychology, it's our super ego, okay? And your super ego, the thing about your super ego is you are not born with it, right? It manifests and matures as time progresses. But the thing that feeds or fuels our super ego are the authority figures in our lives. So that's our parents, those are teachers, professors, church leaders, right? Sunday school teachers, your boss, right? So even if we just took a moment of silence to think through all of the authority figures in our lives and the seeds that they planted. And when they planted those critical judgmental seeds, are those moments that, where somebody goes, why'd you do that? Or wait, or no, that's wrong. That don't make sense, right? They planted a seed and your super ego said, yeah, I'm gonna pick that up and I'm gonna hold on to that. And over time, right, that is Vanessa, or name her whomever you like, right? Other few ladies have chatted with me since we did the Silencing Your Inner Critic in my group. And they named her Renee, Karen. She got a whole bunch of names, right? Name her what you like.
Mine is Shasha.
What's hers? Say it again, Lynn.
Mine is Shasha.
Shasha. Oh, she's sassy, huh? She got a lot of attitude, don't she?
Yes.
So just think about that. Like, really, that's a lot to unpack, right? You know, so your super ego is really just what I call generational doubt and fear. Because you know, it's the things that your parents' ego or super ego, and anybody else that's been in your life and that's spoken more of the judgy, critical things into you, right? So you're holding on so much, right? And that's Vanessa, your critic, speaking to you every time you try to do something that's probably unique, or that will stretch you, or that will be different, or that is uncomfortable, right? She comes in and she says, "You gonna leave that good job?" That's my mom, y'all. That's my mom, right? Like, that's what
yes.
You're gonna leave that good job, but you got such good benefits, and ooh, you make so much money, right? And so when I hesitate to resign from a job or anywhere, it's my mom in the voice of Vanessa. Well, Vanessa, you know, my mom and Vanessa saying, "Oh, you can't leave that good job, so I stall out and delay or deny my entrepreneur journey." Go ahead. You got something, Lynn.
Yeah, I wanted to pose a question to the audience. Two questions, actually. What is the name of your inner critic, and when does he or she shows up the most? I think that is critical to understand, and also understand who is that influential voice, because mine is my mom's also. And for years, for some time, it's only been 5 years. For some time, it's been really, I've been really hesitant to say, "Oh, that's my mom's voice," but I immediately understood that was her voice.
Mm-hmm.
I immediately understood. So that's really a point to just kind of pin there, to understand when Vanessa shows up, and when, and whatever other name you have for yours, mine is Shasha, but when your inner critic, when does it show up the most, and who influences that voice? So go on.
Yeah, no, those are really, really good. And to understand that really your inner critic, the super ego, is really there to protect you, right? It's a piece of your ego that really is there to control your sense of right, wrong, and guilt, and help morph you into social norms. So again, understand why most, for any of us, our parents are going to be our loudest voice, right? Our inner critic is, you know, it's going to weigh more heavily to the things that they instilled to us because they just were around us for the longest length of time, or a grandparent, right? Whoever nurtured you through your upbringing. And the inner critic aims for perfection, right? Which is why that's the first phase, right, of silencing our inner critic, right? And so just so that we're all on the same page, I'm going to define perfection, right? And perfection just means free from flaws or defects, right? So even when you think about that definition, right, to be perfect, to be free from a flaw or a defect, I know when I thought about that definition, the first thing that hit my head is, well, how do I know it's defective? How do I know that there's a flaw, right? So even in any product, right, an Apple, or, you know, our phones, or anything, right? Like, you have to look at the instruction manual. You have to know, like, you have to know something about it to know that, oh, it's not up to par, or it's off, right? So think about that, kind of back to that question Lynn just asked us, right? Who defined or described what the flaw was? Where did we get that from?
That's so good.
Right?
Yeah.
And really processing that, right? And thinking about that.
So going on, so we're going into phase 2.
So I can give you guys, ladies, a couple of things to do in that perfection phase before we go on to phase 2, right? And one, I kind of just said it, but just not in the exact same way. Understand the origin, right? Because what perfection will do, it will stall you out. It will stop you, right? So understand where it's coming from, and be ready to unpack that thing, right? The other piece that I want you to do is in this perfection phase is I want you to reframe your definition of perfection, right? I want you to look at perfection or being perfect as being complete. It's done, right? And so, when I thought about, perfection and, just this idea of having no defects, right? And that's what I thought about this for me personally in my quiet time with God. Maybe you ladies will attach onto it. The only place in my life where I want or need to be perfect is in my obedience to God.
Come on in here.
Right? That's like the only place where I want to get it right? Like, let me just do whatever he told me, or the last thing he told me to do. That's like the only place I need to be perfect, right? Perfect in obedience. And if you want a scripture, you can look at Matthew 5:48. If you just want a scripture to kind of to tag along with that. But outside of your obedience to God, understanding that perfect is just done. It's complete, right? You said that you would start a business, right? So maybe perfect is I wrote a business plan. Maybe perfect is I filed for my LLC, right? Maybe perfect is I'm just going to be a sole proprietor and I'm going to get one client. And it's complete. It's done. It is perfect because it's your definition and how you see it, right? Again, kind of silencing Vanessa and saying, hush up, Vanessa, right? This is how I see it. So that's what I want us to do when we're in that perfection phase. It's just totally reframe our idea of perfect and allow perfect to mean complete. And then once you're done with that first step, then become perfect through refinement, right? You always have an opportunity to tweak, right? But if you just always tweak and no one knows you have a business or you're an awesome cook, a chef, candle, I don't care what you do, right? Even in your job and as you do work, right? If you're just waiting to be perfect before you reveal or emerge from the shadows, as I like to say, so many people will pass you up. And let's think about that, right? When we think about our careers, often we compare ourselves, but comparison is the thief of joy. But we look at the person to the left and to the right, and we say, how did they pass me up? They weren't stuck in perfect. They did it. They spoke up. They asked for help. They said, okay, what do I need to do? This is what I need to do. I'm going to do this, right? Is that good? Okay, tell me what I need to do to make it a little bit better. And they just kept moving, right? They moved in momentum. So I'll pause there. I don't know if you have questions for me, comments.
There are comments. Someone, I believe it is live stream. So let me just say this. If you do not click on the link when I go on live using StreamYard, then we can't see your name. So Mary Beth is faithful of attending one of my lives. So she's probably the one commenting here, but it comes out when you are around people from your past who bring that feeling back up. One way you can defeat this is to go to a class reunion or family dinner and stand up for yourself, even if it's wanting another piece of cake and your mom says, are you sure? And I say, yes, I am eating another piece of cake. Definitely. I can relate to that. Definitely can relate to that. Another comment said, you can be this tigress at the office who can command a room of people, then go home for Christmas and get turned upside down by a family member. And these are comments all while you were talking. And then someone else says, I've turned the voice in my head as a challenge. If negative Nancy says I can't, I can, and I will, just because she challenged me. Well, let me tell you, I've started talking back to her. I'd be like, who you talking to? I can do it.
So that's the beauty of giving her a name, right?
Yeah.
We're playing, right? But when we give her a name, we personify her, right? So then she becomes like Lynn, and I can talk to her and I can ask her questions. And even before she can answer me back, I'm able to say, well, no, I guess I can. Or no, it doesn't have to be this way, but it can be this way. And I can do that. And that means I can get started, right? So no, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm loving it. I'm loving the dialogue too. All of
yes,
that is absolutely right. Wherever you are, you know, if someone is saying, "You sure you want another piece of cake?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely, I'm sure." And depending on how well you want to shut them down and say, "Yes, I walked, or I did, or maybe I did nothing at all, but I'm having this cake," and you will leave it alone.
Yeah, and you know what? For me, it is, yes, I want this piece of cake. Yes, I'm eating this piece of cake. Period. And in actuality, yes is a full sentence. I ain't got to give you no explanation.
Absolutely, and so is no.
And keep on, turn around and keep walking.
Yes.
So absolutely. So let's go on to phase 2.
Yes. So phase 2. Are you there? Yeah, you're there. So phase 2 is procrastination, right? Because that's what perfection does. Perfection is just what procrastination. It's poison, right? It stalls us out. It keeps us from moving forward in the thing that is calling and pulling us, right? So we're all on the same page. Perfection is defined as the act of delaying or denying something, right? And when I think about procrastination, right? I want to ask you, ladies, right? Think about it. Why do you delay or deny your dreams? Like, just in the chat, like, what are some of the reasons you're delaying and denying your dreams?
That deserve a pause. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you delaying or denying your dreams when you have everything you need to actualize the vision for your life?
Right. So I have some of the ladies begin to share. Yeah,
Mary Beth says fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is one. I have 3 of them to share with you. So fear is one. I'll talk a little bit about fear. And so, of course, that's all the fear of failure. I'm sure most of you ladies have heard of that. And remember when we talked about, okay, so what is this inner critic? Who is this inner critic? And I described it as a super ego, right? So remember that the inner critic is there to protect you, right? So your Vanessa is showing up and speaking up because she doesn't for fear of failure or fear of success. There is the opposite. I particularly struggle with fear of success, right? Fear of not being enough, right? And so again, like even unpacking that idea of not enough, or let's use the inverse of that too much. Who in your life told you weren't enough? And maybe they didn't say that explicitly, but through actions or through other comments that they said, it just always felt like it wasn't right, it wasn't enough. There was always something more, right? So just, again, going back to that perfection stage, where is the origin? Where does this come from, right? So another one is your beliefs, right? So what's stalling you, delaying and denying your dream is your beliefs, right? And that is your inner critic again. Who told you weren't enough, right? Whose beliefs did you pick up along the way that you really need to unpack, sit with, think about, and then throw away? And to realize and change that to say, no, I am enough, right? I'm enough for X. And this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to charge through, anyway. So another reason that I feel that we deny or delay our dreams is because of low energy or lack of focus, right? And so if you don't have the energy to do a thing or to pursue a dream or a goal, I would challenge you to go back and revisit that dream or that goal. And the reason that I'm challenging you is probably because it's not tapping into your core calling. It's tapping into probably some superficial thing or something somebody else said that you should do, but it's not really your core calling. I'll use myself as an example. I've had my business for 3 years now. When I officially formed an LLC, and for those first 3 years or so, I was pursuing businesses. But I mean, it was really lackadaisical. I really put little to no effort into it. Since the pandemic, I shifted. and I started targeting consumers, more specifically career-minded powerhouse professionals, because I decided to flip my HR knowledge and give away all the HR secret sauce and tell people why they're not getting promoted and what you really need to focus on. And when I decided to do that, I've done more in 3 months than I did in 3 years. You hear me? I have all types of content, all type of social media activity, just way more. I've done way more in 3 months than I've done in 3 years. And that's all because I went, but my energy was low. I was like, why? Why can I not? Because I have the expertise. I know what to do. I wrote so many books. I've done so many projects, and from a corporate perspective and in a corporate environment. But I wasn't truly tapping into my core calling, or what I like to call my genius zone. Mm-hmm. Right? And when you tap into those elements of you, trust me, everything flows out of you, like gushingly flows out of you.
That's one thing that you have, since you and I have been like getting together and doing our accountability calls. That's one thing that you have really helped me with is really focus my energy where my energy flows, right? Because creativity follows energy.
Yes.
Or is it the other way around? Sometimes I get it mixed up. But you know what I mean.
Yes.
Creativity, the moment you find something that gives you energy, your creativity flows really well. And that's what it sounds like in the example that you gave us. Within, you started a business 3 years ago, but there wasn't much energy there and you couldn't figure it out. And then when you did figure it out, you made the pivot, right? Creativity followed the energy.
It did.
So that was phase 2. Phase 3.
Yeah, so phase 3, I love it because it's the planning phase. And planning is just all about taking action, right? And in order to take action, I fully believe you got to have a vision first, right? A man without a vision will perish, right? So you see that thing, right? In order to attain anything in life, like, we really have to be able to see it. Think about even in language, as we talk to people, at least in America anyway, we often use the phrase, I see what you're saying, right? And that's because you can visually, like, oh, I finally get it. It's click to understand. I can see what you're saying. So make sure you have a vision of that dream and that thing that you are pursuing, right? And then set goals, set realistic, smart goals, and make a plan. Again, it doesn't have to be huge, right? It could be small. I mean, whatever fits and what you need and where you are, and definitely anything that just shuts up Vanessa, right? So like going back to an example in my business, I have so many things I want to create. Like, I have all the way up to 2 to 3 years planned out, right? Because I'm just a natural visionary. I think that far ahead. But the problem with that for me is it stalls my execution, because I'm so high up in vision and ideation, right? Now I got to break that baby down into little small bite-sized chunks. So one of the things that I just had to do to silence my inner critic, I was thinking about, okay, how am I going to attract ladies to really help them? I'm going to start a group. And I sat in that idea for probably weeks. And then one day I said, nope, I'm going to go into Facebook and I'm going to start the group and name it right now. And I did, right? And that little action helped me to then propel, 2 weeks later, I think, where I really started inviting people in lives. And, now we're kind of rocking and rolling and going. But just start and make sure that it's manageable and realistic for you. And here's the thing. I've talked to quite a few ladies in the last couple of months that had visions and dreams, but they went to the wrong people in sharing their visions and dreams. So again, that stalled them out. Or someone said, oh, you sure you're going to do that? Oh, that's not a good idea, right? Here's the thing. Make sure you're talking to the right people, right? Yep. I do want you to have an accountability partner. You hear me and Lynn saying, like, we are accountability partners and business besties. But make sure they're the right people and they're aligned and they, there's overlap with your values, right? And the thing that they can help you with, and vice versa. It seems like you have something to share there, Lynn.
Yes, I do. And it goes along with what you just said about sharing your vision with the right people. So Mary Beth says, my daughter went to speak to the college about going to school there. She came back and looked defeated. She was shaking. She held a folder in her hands that had all the info of what she needed to join. I asked her what was wrong. She said, I can't do this. I asked why. Who told you that? Did I say you couldn't? No. Did the financial aid instructor said that you couldn't? She said no. Then no one said it but you. I say you can do this. She has been an RN graduate and works at the hospital birthing little babies. So, it's funny because and that's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that, Mary.
Beautiful, Mary Beth. Yes.
You are so right. As I grow and as I mature, I'm learning that you have to be able to discern who are the right people. And sometimes I've learned from who I used to call, at one point was my mentor, Vin. Vin used to say, there's five. He had five.
Yep, your top five.
Your top five. Thank you. Your top five. And sometimes those are not people that you've known all your life, right? You have to be, willing to embrace the you evolving as a person, and growing into this new thing that you're trying to develop. And that leads you to the people that you need to be connected to. That was a lot.
It does. And this is a total aside, but I know I talked about this in my group. 3 things I wanted my ladies to do was after my 37th birthday in the middle of June. And I was hiking with my husband. And it was 3 things that it prompted me to share in the group. And that was choose you, choose joy, and choose boundaries. And I thought of the boundary piece as you were just talking, because as you're looking to level up, because I know, Lynn, that's what you help ladies do in this group, right? As you're looking to level up, you're going to have to create space to think about what that looks like. Again, going back to that vision, and then understanding who are probably in your top 5 right now, that for the next season, they're going to have to go to the extended top 10. Right? And you're going to have a conversation with them. And that's not you're not good enough to be in my top 5. It's, hey, I'm making room because I have this thing that's burning in my belly that I just can't let go of. And so I'm going to start studying. I'm going to start reading. I'm going to become a student of this thing. So I'm probably going to have a little bit less time to go to happy hour, a little bit less time, to hang out on Sunday for family dinner. And I just wanted you to know that. So when my behavior shifts or my behavior changes, you just understand why, right? We're going to spend time together, but maybe the next season it won't just be as much as we used to. And we can't be afraid to do that. It is really a necessity and an essential part of growth, right? And maturity. As you think about it, the vision of who I'm becoming is always in my mind.
Yes.
And I never shy away from the hard conversations. Even sometimes it's a person that I really want to still be there. But then it's a hard conversation of why I feel like there's a tug or there's a conflict of where something may need to shift or whatever the conversation is. But don't be afraid to have that conversation, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You have anything there too?
No, I was just gonna say I'm probably a little bit more mature now, but when I was younger and started this journey of becoming the person I wanted to be, I didn't have conversations. I just let the chips fall where they may. And if you just fell out of my life, you just fell out of my life. But we grow up, and I love what you just said about, just having a conversation. Hey, let me just tell you, I'm not going to be able to do this happy hour thing every weekend like we used to, because I'm just focusing somewhere else. So
that is, and it's easy for us to just run away or ignore, or because a lot of people choose that option, and there's no judgment, and that is the option you choose. But there's still energy that is extended when we just let the chips fall where they may, right? Especially as a family member, because then they're going to talk about you to somebody, and that's going to come back. You follow, and it's going to come back to you some way, somehow. So at some point, you're going to expound energy on that thing and on that person. Go ahead and just get ahead of it, right? Get ahead of it, and that way when their behavior is changing, Are they inviting you to a family event and you might go, hey, yes, I'm going to come, but actually I can only stay for about 30 minutes or 45 minutes, right? But because I want to support you, I'm going to show up, but I can only do it for, X long. It helps people along your path and your journey too. And believe it or not, they're watching, and, the hope is they begin to model, like some of the same behavior and things. So again, both is a choice. No judgment on either choice. I've just always found that is much easier, and the person is bought in with me along the way, right? So they know this next season is about to be crunch time, grind time for me. And so even how they think of me and how they communicate with me is different, right? And they may even be sending me saying things, oh, I thought of you because I know you're doing X, right? And that's just a different energy and a different feeling than, you know what, I don't have time for you. You just don't get me wrong, I've done that too, Lynn. But through maturity, I've just learned a better way.
Yep. So going into this last part of the hour, fourth phase. What's the fourth phase?
So the fourth phase is just progression. So again, we're silencing our Vanessas. We're silencing, those thoughts and those seeds and those the judgment and the criticism that we picked up along, our entire life to this point. And really, the older you are, right, the harder it is because you've been living with it for that much longer. So through perfection, procrastination, right, delaying or denying your dreams, to actually say, you know what, I'm gonna propel, I'm gonna move forward, I'm gonna take action. So now progression is about leveraging that momentum, right, and moving forward towards completion, right? And at one time I said a destination, but again, kind of mirroring the idea that perfect just means complete, right? You said you're gonna do X, right? And so moving towards completion, keep your progress and allow you to get to a place where you're just complete until you have to do step 2 or 3 or 4, whatever the case is, right? And in this progression phase, it's really key for you to start small, right? I kind of said that a little bit earlier as well, but start small and just keep going. It's really, really, really that simple. And if you have an accountability partner, like I do, I have probably about 5 of them, right? And that's probably for 3 different goals, right? And a few of them overlap. Like I have another accountability business partner as well, who gives me something different, right, than Lynn does. So start small, keep going. And another little trick is especially if you have this really big goal and this thing that you want to achieve, you want to go to the next level, right? Schedule power hours, right? So what a power hour is, whether it's you choose to do it daily, you choose to do it 3 times a week, 2 times a week, 1 time a week. It's small, you're going to start and you're going to have progression, right? But you choose your frequency. It's just this focused time to achieve your goal. It's a powerful hour where you're going to do tasks, think through, strategize, whatever you need to do for whatever that dream is. Again, so that you progress and move forward. That way is that simple.
Yeah. And do it with intention. That's what you're going to do and focus on. And even a broader intention is, hi, cutie.
I'm like, no, don't invite him in. He likes to talk.
For the audience, he loves coming into our lives, into our discussions.
He does.
Mary Beth says frequency is a powerful word. Absolutely, it is. A greater intention around the tip around what you just gave us for progression is putting our mindset that this is what I'm going to progress in. Therefore, the power hour is committed to X. So you're linking your power hour to a goal.
Yes.
And I think that's important because I find that even with me, at times, I'm not really thinking about the goal. I'm just kind of writing out the task, and therefore the goal doesn't get achieved, right? So we got to make sure that our power hour is linked to a greater goal.
Yes.
And so we can look back to see our progression.
Yes, that is an awesome and beautiful point. Otherwise, you're going to feel like you're on a treadmill, right? You're doing a lot with no results. And actually, you can do a little and have monumental movement and results, right? Especially once you train yourself for your power hour may turn into 30 minutes or 15 minutes. I mean, who knows? And it may shift each and every time, but ensure that it links to a higher level something that you're attempting to achieve.
Yep. Mary Beth says, make a written contract with yourself. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So before we end, I want you to name those 4 stages again. Tell the audience once again what we just discussed.
Certainly. So in order to silence your inner critic, remember we've affectionately named her Vanessa so that we can have a conversation with her. We can speak to her. We can challenge her. We can shut her up and shut her down. That first phase is perfection, and we've defined perfection as free from flaws or defects. But remember, we reframed that and said, you know what? Perfect just means complete. It means done, right? That second phase is about procrastination, because what does perfection do to us? It stalls us out, right? It stops us from having momentum and progress. So in that, procrastination is defined as the act of denying or delaying something. And that something is our dreams, right? And so in order not to do that, we really need to hone in on our beliefs, right? What do we believe about ourselves? What are we afraid of? Our fears, right? And be really, really in tune to our energy and our focus, right? Because if you don't have the energy or the focus for it, you probably need to step back and reevaluate it, right? And again, 9 times out of 10, you're not moving in calling and purpose, right? You're moving in competence, just something you're good at, right? And there's a huge difference for that spectrum, right? And so then that third phase is planning, right? We've moved out of the idea of perfection and no longer procrastinating. We're ready to take action, baby, right? And that's all that planning phase is, taking action, making sure if you have goals and SMART goals, right? And that stands for specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. And if you just Google SMART goals, you'll get a whole lot of information on that. And then that last phase, right, is the progression, right? It's the thing that keeps us moving forward to completion, right? And in progression, we want to start small and just keep going. Consistency is always key. You know, a lot of times we want, you know, the overnight success, right? That's just what we all want. I want it too. But it's just not how it happens. It's not. And it's all about being consistent, be it changing your lifestyle, be it a career move, be it an entrepreneurial journey, be it a marriage, right? Be it parenting. I don't care what it is. It's all about being consistent and being in tune, right? And sure and flat-footed with your values and your core calling, right? I'll pause there. I'll stop there.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Mary Beth says she loved listening to strong women who are a force to be reckoned with. I learned so much with this video. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelah, for showing up today. I loved it, enjoyed it. And just like when I sat in on your live in your group, it was so much that I, took away from it. And the same tonight. So I appreciate you coming. And to my audience, thank you so much for hanging in there with us tonight. Join us next Wednesday, same time, 7 p.m. Central. Until next time, stay safe.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.